Alright, guys, I am back with another episode of RCW. So, I apologize for being a little away. I know I told you guys that I was going to be not streaming, at least last week. But, you know, I still feel bad because, like, not in the sense that I feel like I failed you guys, but in the sense that, like, I miss it. Like, even though, like, you know, when streamers take a needed break or whatever, like, it wasn't necessarily a break. It was just because I was doing other things that I wasn't able to stream. But you know, when you take a needed break or when you take a break from streaming because you're doing other things, whether it be, you know, homework or you're working late or you've worked your butt off in a week and you're like, I'm too tired to stream, I don't have any energy, whatever. You know, that happens. That happens, you know, as a streamer, that happens. And, you know, you shouldn't feel bad about it, but I feel like you do anyway. Because you're like, oh, you know. Because, you know, when you have a schedule and stuff like that, you know, at least in my opinion, you feel like you have to abide by that. You have a schedule, it makes legit everything easier when you have a schedule, you know, whatever. And I'm streaming a little earlier today, and that's because I got home earlier from my grandparents after a couple days with them and some fun times. So that was really fun. So before we get into the show today, I'd just like to say a few things in regards to streaming and you know, just a couple of life things. So, first off, I'm gonna start off with streaming and saying a couple things in that regard. So, when it comes to streaming, as far as, hey Zenix, what's going on? When it comes to streaming, as far as, you know, the future, I start college next Monday to be exact. So that's the 19th of August. What does that mean for streaming? Well, luckily I was able to make a schedule because in college you're able to make your schedule and you're able to decide what classes you want at what time. Streaming is not going to change as far as time-wise. It's still going to be, you know, 1 o'clock like it normally is. I just happened to be streaming earlier today just because of, you know, just because I felt like it. But I get out at 12:15 Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so those are the streaming days. Which means, unless I have homework or a lot of crap to do, which often is not the case. I usually, like last semester, I didn't really have much homework. I don't know how it's going to be this semester because everything is different. But as far as that goes, streaming times aren't going to change. In the likelihood that I have to cancel stream because I'm doing finals or I'm doing some homework for school, or even then, or either I'm just out of energy because college takes a lot out of you sitting in class for a couple hours a day. You know, hearing a teacher talk at you takes a lot of energy out of you, even though it doesn't seem like it. I will let you guys know in those cases where I'm not streaming. So, yeah, that goes for that. So, another thing on streaming before we get into the show is we're coming to an end of the RCW Season 5. There will be a Season 6. As far as when I want to start that, that's a whole new thing. Because WWE 2K20, I already pre-ordered it. It's already covered. It's already pretty much purchased. I pre-ordered the deluxe edition this year, which means I will get the VC accelerator, which means I will unlock everything in the game, including the legends and superstars. Also, since I pre-ordered it, I get the pre-order bonus, which is The Rock, Mankind, China. She's actually making a return into WWE games, which is awesome because I love China and D Generation X, DX. I love those guys. So it's good to see her in a game. I forget the other pre-order bonus, but Mankind, Mick Foley, which is awesome. So Mick Foley is back in the game as well. Also, there are mixed tag matches, which means there can be a man and a woman tag teaming together, which means we're going to have a lot of variety of matches here on RCW throughout the seasons when that game comes out. So the game comes out October 22nd. The game comes out later in October. Usually the game comes out the beginning of October, but this year it comes out later October. And the reason for that is probably because SmackDown is moving to Fox Network later in October. I believe I get to play a couple days early because I ordered the deluxe edition of the game. So, in terms of the timeline when Season 6 is going to start, I don't know. But I want to focus on getting the Outlaws made as characters in the game and Zero, obviously. So the champions, whoever ends up being champion by the end of this season, because we still have the one pay-per-view, we still have the Liberation pay-per-view, whoever ends up being champion by the end of that season, I will have to make those wrestlers first. So you might not see Scarlett right away, you might not see the other wrestlers right away, because I created a lot of wrestlers in this game, so you might not see them right away, but you'll definitely see the Outlaws sooner because the Outlaws are the main attraction of this show, and I want to make them first. They may look a little bit different because of new features in the game, whatever they may be in the creation suite. So they may look a little bit different, but I'll try to keep them looking the same. Also, I got a chance, now that we got that settled, a couple more things before we get the show started here. So I got the chance to meet Jerry the King Lawler last week. He was at a local baseball game as part of wrestling night, and I got a chance to meet him. And it was probably one of the greatest experiences I've ever experienced in my entire life. What's up, Ice Strike? How's it going? Good to see you in here, buddy. So I got the chance to meet Jerry the King Lawler, and in case you don't know who he is possibly the greatest WWE commentator of all time, next to JR. And I was so happy to meet him, because he's legit one of my heroes, and I got to meet him, and the funny thing is when I was waiting in line for him, there was a crap ton of people. So basically, it started at 6:15. The gates opened at 6 o'clock, and I went right towards the line because it was going to be a long line. And so he was doing signings from 6:15 to 7:15 and 7:15 to 8, and he was supposed to throw the first pitch of the baseball game. And so I was waiting in there for about an hour, and then I was getting so close, and then he left. And I was super sad because I was like a couple of steps away from meeting him, but then he came back early, before like 7:15, the second time round when he was signing, and I got a chance to go up and meet him. And the thing is he was very personal with everybody. He wasn't just the guy that you walked up and you got an autograph and that was it. You actually got to talk to him for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and you brought your phone up there and you took a picture. My whole idea was, because I've seen wrestling meet and greets before, like WWE ones. And usually at like big pay-per-views, they do SummerSlam. SummerSlam just happened yesterday, and they do SummerSlam Access. They do what's called WrestleMania Access, SummerSlam Access. They do it for almost every pay-per-view. And you buy like a ticket, a meet and greet ticket to meet them and then get autographs or whatever, and then get your picture, and a professional photographer takes your picture. But there was this guy that was standing there that would take your phone or whatever you had with you and take a picture. So the guy was right there, and I walked up and I met Jerry, and I was a little nervous because like you dream about meeting your heroes. You always dream about it, and you dream about it being a certain way. But let me tell you, it never ends up the way you dreamed it in your head. And sometimes that's a good thing. And my grandpa was the one that took me. Like, he was a big wrestling fan back in the 80s and 90s. So Jerry was around back then. But he knew Hacksaw Jim Duncan and all those guys, Hulk Hogan, all those dudes. But he didn't really know Jerry. But I was telling him, yeah, Jerry was around when you were watching it. You probably just didn't realize it. And he's 69 years old, and he still wrestles. Not as frequently because of his heart attack issues. He had a heart attack in 2012 on a live episode of Raw. Like, he passed out and he died for a couple seconds. He went into cardiac arrest and died, and he had to be revived, but luckily he was still alive. I remember that. I watched that when it happened, and that was really scary, but I got a chance to walk up and meet him, and he asked me what my name was, to sign the autograph, and I was like, hey, it's Brian with a Y, man, and I told him, I said, Jerry, you're one of my heroes, right? Like, you and JR both are, kings, no pun intended, Jerry the King Lawler. I said, you guys are both kings at WWE commentary. Like, I would listen to, I told him, I said, honestly, I don't really listen to the commentary, but when you and JR were on there, I listened. Whether it was you screaming your head off or and the way Jerry was is, he would, say the most random stuff during commentary sometimes. Especially, like, during the Attitude Era and stuff like that. Like, I would go back and watch the Attitude Era, and he would say things about the girls, and I remember Trish Stratus, when Trish Stratus was actually attractive. She's not anymore because of all the plastic and, her age, but, I remember the one time where The Rock, it was The Rock and Vince McMahon, thought he was gonna kiss Trish's ass, and he's like, no. The Rock has another one, and Rikishi ends up rubbing his butt all up in his face, which is kind of funny. And then when Trish is getting out of the ring, Jerry's like, let me get a smooch, and I thought it was funny. Just his commentary was hilarious, and you could tell that there was real passion in his commentary. You could know. Like, for example, like, I can know the names of moves, right? I could know the actual names of moves, like Samoan Drop, Sharpshooter, Single Leg Boston Crab, stuff like that. And I can know history. I could know, the history of wrestling, like, who won what title, whatever. I could know that. Anybody can know that. But the difference is even though it's scripted entertainment, you can't script passion. You can't script emotion. Like, if they did that, then they did a pretty good job of faking it. If they were just faking it, but you could tell, like, from him and JR, like, they were just passionate about what they did, and that's what. And and that's what I told Jerry. I said, I told him, I said, I don't usually listen to commentary, but I listen to you guys because you guys are passionate about what you do. And I asked him about Paige's debut on Raw, April 7th of 2014, the night after WrestleMania 30, because he was there when Paige came out and won the Divas Championship and became the youngest Divas Champion of all time. And I told him that I was a diehard Paige fan, and I told him, I said, what was it like, to call that match? And he didn't really call it as much as Michael Cole did. You can go back on YouTube and watch it. Just enter Paige wins Divas Championship April 7th, 2014, and you'll find it. There's a video on WWE's YouTube channel. And he didn't really call the match per se, but just his reaction after she won the championship. He was all like, oh, she wasn't ready to be in the WWE, and now she's Divas Champion. And, just his reaction to it was great. And, he said that from that moment on, he knew that Paige was going to be something in the WWE. And she was. She rose to the top after that. But, I told him, I said, you're the reason why I gave up music and went towards wrestling. And, and he was like, well, I just want you to know, man, you got to keep going, He goes, maybe you'll end up like me and JR. And I was like, well, I don't know about that, because you guys are the best to ever do it. And, I asked him if he was ever going to do commentary again, and he said he would love to. But he was talking about AEW, the new wrestling promotion, and because I asked him about JR, and JR's on AEW now. And he goes, yeah, I think that would be good for him. And I saw an article that Jerry the King Lawler, that Jerry might be joining AEW with him soon. And seriously, just having those two back together again would be freaking awesome. But he was really cool, honestly. Like, he just told me that he wished me luck and that, he wants me to make it somewhere, which was kind of cool. And he was very appreciative about, me telling him that I'm one of his heroes, and he was like, thank you, I appreciate that. And I was like, well, dude, like, you've been doing this for years, man. Like, this is something that you do and that you have a passion for, and like, I could just feel that energy off of you. And that's the thing about wrestling is, like, you can know the names of moves, you can know the history, but you can't know the emotion. You have to channel that. And even people who don't know the names of moves but are still able to, because I don't know every single name of a move, but people who are still able to be passionate about it, and you can sense that in their commentary as they're commentating matches. Like, that's something that you can't script. Because you can act and you can play your character really well, but you can't script passion. Like, you can't tell somebody to sound passionate. You can't teach that, honestly. And that's something that Jerry had taught me, was kind of just, that you can't teach passion. You have to be passionate about what you do. And he was just really cool, and I was very glad to have that moment with him. But what was really cool was, I tagged him in the photo that we took together, and I thanked him for everything, and he tweeted me back saying thank you back, which was kind of cool because I didn't expect him to. But I wish him luck. I wished him luck in all of his future endeavors. I especially wish him luck in that lawsuit that he has with his son, because his son unfortunately committed suicide in jail, and I guess the jail that he was in, that his son was in, knew that he had mental health issues and didn't do anything. Didn't put him on suicide watch or anything. So he's suing the department in Memphis for $3 million. So, hopefully he wins that, because that's just heartbreaking for his son and stuff like that. To lose a kid, that's heartbreaking. But you know, he was a real cool dude, and I'm glad that I got to share that experience with him. And I hope to meet JR one day. Like, that's on my bucket list. I want to meet him or Stone Cold, or both of them. I'd love to meet JR one day, but it's something real cool, and I'm happy that I got to share that experience with him. That was awesome, even if it was for 5 to 10 minutes. And I waited for like an hour to meet him, so I sat down. I got tired of standing, so I sat down against the wall there, and I waited for him. But it was cool. It was really cool, and he told the story about about why he wears the crown, and I guess his buddy, back when he started wrestling, his buddy died in a plane crash, and that was his crown, and he was supposed to give it back to him when he came back from like Australia, but he ended up dying in a plane crash, and that's why he wears the crown, in memory of his friend, which I thought was really sad. But at the same time, like, I thought it was just a gimmicky thing, like he's the king, so he wears the crown, but no, it was to remember his friend, and I think that's really cool, and that's what I tell you guys. Like, when it comes to wrestling, like, there is no, like, you could be passionate about football, you could be passionate about whatever you are passionate about, but when it comes to wrestling, like, there is nothing like it. The way the fans are, the way the entertainers are, being the wrestlers and being the interviewers and stuff like that, like, there's nothing like it. There really isn't. Because I feel like wrestlers and people who are in the wrestling industry realize just how much these fans mean to them. I mean, Tom Brady could care less if I wear his jersey. I got an autograph from him, which was dope. I never met him, but I sent him a letter, like, back when I was a kid, and I sent him, like, pictures of me drawing the Patriots logo, and he said my pictures were great. Like, that was back when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, I think Tom Brady's awesome, but he could probably care less if I wore a jersey, because he makes millions of dollars with or without me there. But with wrestlers, like, their job is on the line with fans. Like, if you don't do a good job, the fans will let you know that. So, our job as fans is to get a reaction, whether it's booing or cheering. And if you suck, and if you suck at wrestling and your character sucks, then you don't belong in the business. That's why I didn't like Ronda Rousey, because I think she sucks, her character sucks, her gimmick sucks, all of that stuff is bad. So, she doesn't belong. I knew that she didn't belong in the business. Like, UFC's totally different, obviously, but with wrestling, like, she didn't belong there. And it was just a real cool experience to share that with Jerry, and to meet one of my heroes, because I never thought I would meet him until until I got the opportunity. So it was real fun. But I'm glad to be back streaming, and let's get this underway here. I've been talking your ear off enough. But as far as the podcast goes, as far as the Angle podcast, our wrestling podcast that I was talking about with Slev, I just talked to him just a couple minutes ago. I sent him a message on Discord, talking to him about getting it started finally, and he said that we're gonna try and do it this week. The only reason being because I start school next week. So I told him, I said, well, we've been talking about this for a while. You've been kind of busy with your giveaways and whatever you're doing on your channel, which is cool and everything. I'm completely fine with that. That's fine. But I wanted to get it started, and I think we're going to get it started this week. As far as what day, we don't know yet. He's going to get back to me. And so I just told him I'll need help setting up a scene for that here in OBS, doing a couple test streams, So you might see a bunch of test streams happening where we test a bunch of settings to make sure that our voices don't overpower each other. Because I feel like Slev and I both have like the same type of voice when we talk. Like, we're loud, and you know, we have a very we project our voices very well. And so I think we just need, that's probably the number one thing we're gonna need to do, is to figure out how to balance each other's voices out, where my voice doesn't overpower his and his voice doesn't overpower me. By the way, we have a new command in the chat. I just added a Jerry the King Lawler command, so if you enter !King, you will get the command there, and you'll get Jerry to say something. So I put a command in there for him. As Brian Outlaw comes out here with the Demon Assassin Rosemary, to face the one and only John Cena. So now, John Cena, I believe, if my numbers are correct, a 16-time wrestling champion. Or at least, I believe that's for the heavyweight title anyway, the WWE title. But this is probably the biggest test Brian Outlaw has had to face yet with John Cena, and this is only the first match to kick off the show, so this should be very exciting, as we have a main event tonight, fatal 4-way match with Roman Reigns, Zero, Samoa Joe. Can't remember who else did I put in that match. Who else did I put in that match? I got 3 of them in that match. I got 3 of them. Can't remember the 4th one at the top of my head right now. Lots of stuff going on. But that match is a number 1 contenders match for Miles Anderson's RCW World Championship. Now, the winner of that match will go on to face him at the Liberation pay-per-view, so that should be very exciting. Another thing, before this match gets started, so the 1-year anniversary of RCW is coming up next week. That'll be Wednesday, the 21st. The 21st is when we started this show last year, and we'll be doing a special episode regardless of how the season ends. So if the season ends, for example, so if the season ends up ending, which means we do the Liberation pay-per-view and it closes out, I will still be doing a 1-year anniversary to celebrate. The show as John Cena pushes Brian Outlaw away here, and a DDT from John Cena. But we will be doing a special episode to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the show. It's been a wild ride with you guys. I can't believe I'm actually saying that 1-year anniversary, and we're already here. And I promise you, there's going to be a hell of a lot more, especially when 2K20 comes out with some of the stuff that we got going. And we only know a little bit of the features of the game. So once you get more information of the game, I will be making videos on my YouTube channel about that content and about how it pertains to RCW. So that should be real fun. But we will have a one year anniversary. So you'll probably see some special outfits, some special attires for the 1 year anniversary. I will also be releasing 1 year anniversary merch for RCW, because that's such a big deal for me. Doing this show for a year. I didn't think that I would be doing this show for a year, but I am. We started back in August, towards the end of the cycle of 2K18, and now we've done, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons, counting this one, with 5 being the 4th one. Through WWE 2K19, and I'm excited to do a hell of a lot more as we keep going. Now, as far as the My Career series, so if this series, for example, is going to end, at least for 2K19, so after this, there will be no more RCW episodes until the release of 2K20, and the reason being is because with my college schedule and stuff like that, I doubt we're going to get through 20 episodes before 2K before 2K 20 comes out. And I want to get ready for that and start writing ideas down for that. So with that being said, that should be fun. So I'm excited to do that, but the My Career Universe Mode series with Luna Outlaw and Brian Outlaw, that will continue until I decide to stop it. I don't want to go too far into it. Obviously, I'll probably stop that probably mid-September. For both of those series, I'll probably stop at mid-September and get that going as Brian Outlaw kicks out at 1 here. But that's pretty much some of the news that we got as far as the channel goes. I'm finally excited to start the podcast with Slev and to be doing something special with that. I got so many cool things lined up for that. We have the episode. The first episode, like I said, will probably be coming at you this week. I will definitely keep in contact with Slev. Slev's pretty good at getting back to me, so which is very uncharacteristic with a lot of the people that I've tried to contact over the years. So he's been pretty good about getting in contact with me, and he seems real passionate about it, just like I am. So we should be getting ready for that, for the podcast as soon as possible. So that should be real fun. In regards to that, as Rosemary is paying dividends here and allowing Brian Outlaw to get a roll up here on John Cena. He's almost got John Cena here, but he kicks out at 2.5. Now John Cena, he's not been around in RCW for a while, but John Cena, though, he's had some real special matches as RCW World Champion, but I believe he's a superstar that's had the shortest reign, as he won the RCW World title at a pay-per-view. I can't really remember at the top of my head what pay-per-view that was, but he won it, and then he issued an open challenge, and then he lost it the day after he won it. So how embarrassing that was for John Cena, but John Cena could easily get back in the title picture with a win here over Brian Outlaw, as it was a former champion in his own right with the RCW Carnage title. As Brian Outlaw is looking for the guilty verdict here. Guilty verdict on John Cena. And a rope break that probably saved John Cena's life there in this matchup. Now, Brian Outlaw has not been going for the jailbreak DDT as of late. That has been a move that he has trademarked ever since his debut here in RCW. But, he hasn't been going for that. And honestly, I think it's because he's botched it a couple times, has been unable to connect with it. And, the guilty verdict has just worked out for him. And I think he's going for it again, hooking John Cena and going for the guilty verdict again. And he connects with guilty verdict, trying to get John Cena here. And John Cena gets the shoulder up at 2 again. Now, in wrestling related news, Rosemary actually this weekend, she made history by becoming the first ever Smash Wrestling Women's Champion at 35 years old. And at her age, it's so impressive considering the amount of injuries that she's dealt with over the years, and it's been absolutely amazing getting to watch her from her 20s all the way up in her mid-30s. And it's fantastic seeing her get a chance to make history here, as Brian Outlaw lifting up John Cena, looking for the correction here on John Cena. Correction on John Cena. As John Cena is busted open just a little bit above his forehead there. 1, 2, and John Cena with the kick out at 2.5 again. And Brian Outlaw deciding to get up here, go up to the top rope in the corner where Rosemary is just watching this happen. And John Cena looking for the jailbreak DDT. Brian Outlaw got caught by John Cena into an AA attitude adjustment. How awesome was that as the crowd chants, "This is awesome." But Brian Outlaw kicks out at 2.5. But wow, what a sequence there as John Cena picked Brian Outlaw right out of the air into an attitude adjustment. Now John Cena with the comeback and a shoulder tackle. And another shoulder tackle. taking Bryan down in the middle of the ring, and John Cena is coming back here in this match, looking for a crossface here, or some type of submission here. I don't know if it was a crossface or looked for a crossface. I think that was the crossface submission there by John Cena. Bryan Outlaw able to take a side Russian leg sweep there. And now Bryan just looking in the face of John Cena as he gets ready for the comeback now. Now Bryan with a comeback of his own. Drop kick. Drop kick again. And taking down John Cena with that beautiful neck breaker there. Now lifting up John Cena now. Super kick, no. John Cena saw that coming. Cena saw it coming. Looking for the AA again. AA again on Bryan Outlaw. 1, 2, and Bryan again with the kick out at 2.5. He kicked out of the AA twice now. Now going after the legs of Bryan Outlaw. Remember, he had suffered bruised ribs at the hands of Chris Danger back at the RCW Riot pay-per-view. So maybe John can possibly use that as a weakness here in this match. Now Bryan Outlaw's got a match at the Liberation pay-per-view against his brother Jason there, as Jack Outlaw, the cousin of the Outlaws, will be at ringside at that match. And basically that match is at high stakes. As if Jason Outlaw can win that match, perhaps maybe he can win the soul of Bryan Outlaw back, as the soul of Bryan Outlaw is in the hands of that woman right there at ringside, the demon assassin Rosemary. As John gets out of dodge there with a quick reversal, and now stomping on the arm of Bryan Outlaw now. Now going for a crossface submission again. Crossface submission again here on Bryan Outlaw, as Bryan Outlaw trying to hang on here. Bryan Outlaw with a couple of elbows right to the face of John Cena. Looking to take him down here. That's exactly what he does. As Bryan Outlaw going up top, looking for that jailbreak DDT he couldn't connect with the first time. Oh no, but John caught him again! John caught him again! John caught him again into the AA again. Another AA. 1, 2, 3, and John Cena got Bryan Outlaw. Jeez, it took 2 AAs in midair. And John Cena, big match John, was able to get the win here over Bryan Outlaw. Let's check some of these replays out. Twice. 2 AAs. Busted open and all, and John Cena gets the victory over Bryan Outlaw here. Look at that monster AA. And that's the AA Bryan kicked out of. But John Cena, big match. John gets the victory here over Bryan Outlaw, as Rosemary is a little disappointed as she can only watch as Bryan rolls out to the outside of the ring here. And John Cena is victorious here as we move on to our next matchup. What a match that was to kick off the show. As we move on. Now, as far as the tag team titles go, AJ Maximum, this tag team right here, Max Mercury and AJ Styles, they will have to defend their titles against an opponent at the Liberation pay-per-view, as under RCW rules, all titles must be defended. But they will have to face the New Day and Xavier Woods and Big E first. And when this tag team had come together, it was very unexpected, as as Max, like I said millions of times before, he doesn't work well with others, but he worked well enough to beat the White Dragons at the RCW Turmoil pay-per-view to become tag team champions with AJ Styles. Now, how long is this partnership gonna last? We don't know. As Rock and Hydro got a huge victory over a phenomenal tag team, no pun intended there, in the Lucha Brothers. And we'll just have to see what that means for them going forward. But this is AJ Maximum versus 2/3 of the New Day here. And let's just see how they fare here. And as you can see, Max is coming out here. Let's try and get this underway as soon as possible. See, now you're probably wondering, why do the tag team champions come out separately? And that's the ego of Max Mercury. He still wants that spotlight, despite being in a tag team here with this man, AJ Styles. You have to wonder, though, is that going to come into play? Is the ego going to be too much for Max, the Maniacal Mercury, and AJ Styles to defend their titles against an opponent at the RCW Liberation pay-per-view? But we'll just have to wait to find out for that one, as the Phenomenal One makes his way out. And the New Day is going to make their way out here. But let's get this underway here as Xavier Woods and Max are going to start off this match. Now, you have to wonder, with Max and AJ not having as much chemistry as the New Day have over the years, as they've been a tag team for a really long time. I believe 5-time champions as well. Or is it 6 now? I don't even know. But they've won the tag team titles on both Raw and SmackDown quite a few times. And this is Max and AJ's first reign as tag team champions. I honestly did not think that Max's first title here in RCW would be the tag team title. I figured it would be a singles title, such as the Carnage title, or possibly the world title, the RCW world title. But no, it's a tag team title. So if you're like me, you probably didn't expect that either, considering that Max does not work too well with others, and he seems to be working over Xavier Woods here pretty well. But he tags in AJ Styles here, and AJ Styles with the elbow drop, as Xavier Woods looked for the tag to Big E, but unable to get a hand on to make the tag to Big E here. Well, he possibly was looking for that double team there, but Xavier Woods with the elbow right to the face of AJ Styles. But AJ Styles again firing back here. And AJ taking down Xavier Woods. But he needs to get Xavier Woods out of that corner. Keep Xavier Woods grounded. This is exactly what the tag team champions want to do here. They need to keep Xavier Woods in this match, offer quick tags, and keep Xavier Woods in this matchup. And again, as AJ Styles tags in Max in a double hip toss and a double kick to the back there, as Xavier Woods tried to make the tag, but a big clothesline flooring Xavier Woods here, and Xavier Woods is just getting his ass kicked right now. As Matt's looking for the roll-up here, and Big E able to make a huge reversal and a belly-to-belly to AJ Styles. But Xavier Woods cannot take advantage of that, as Max with a huge cutter. As Big E is working away here on AJ Styles. Ooh, but Big E pushes Max away but AJ gets picked up. AJ gets picked up by Max here. And Big E throwing Max Mercury with a belly-to-belly again. Almost into AJ Styles. And an elbow right to the face, but Max able to get out of that, and a Northern Lights suplex there. And now Max is calling Xavier Woods to his feet here. Taking a little bit too long as Max tried for something there. And the referee is begging Xavier Woods to get back in the ring as Max easily breaking the count there. As I believe if this were a singles match, Max would have easily taken the count out. But he's not going to here. And again, Xavier Woods. Big E hasn't been in this match once. As Max is looking for the Max driver on Xavier Woods, and he connects. Looking to pin Xavier Woods as the referee took a little bit too long there to get in position, and AJ Styles taking care of Big E for the time being, and Max cleaning up the pieces. I'm going after the leg of Xavier Woods now. As again, tags in AJ Styles. As Big E tossing Max, and Max is still in the ring here. Max needs to get out, though. Now pushing Xavier Woods away. And a backbreaker to Xavier Woods. And again, Xavier Woods finally getting the tag to Big E. And Big E just running over AJ Styles. Looking to pin the Phenomenal One here. One half of the tag team champions, but a kick out at 1. Can you believe how long Xavier Woods was in this match? And this is the first time we're seeing Big E be in this match. But then again, it looks like AJ's looking to end Big E here with a Styles Clash on Big E. 1, 2, and no Big E with a kick out, and that doesn't surprise me one bit, though, as Big E, the freshest man here in this match, is Xavier Woods. Getting back on the apron there. But AJ Styles looking to go after Xavier Woods here. And he's doing so, dropping Xavier Woods back first on the apron. Now going after Big E again. Ooh, but Big E with a big kick. Those tree trunk legs of Big E, and a belly-to-belly by Big E. And now AJ is finding himself in trouble here. As Xavier Woods again making his way up to the apron here. And Big E, what's he going for here? Possibly a huge monster splash on AJ Styles, but AJ again with the kick out. And AJ lifting up the big man, Big E, and taking him down. The strength that it took to take Big E down there. Big E is a big man. Hence the name Big E, though. For real. And a calf crusher here on Big E. But realizing that Big E could easily get out of it, AJ decides to let that one go. And now AJ, what's he going for here? Well, he possibly was looking for the phenomenal forearm, but went a little too far there. And AJ, he's looking for it. Phenomenal forearm on Big E. Into the cover. 1, 2. No, Big E with the kick out. Big E kicked out at 2.5. Now lifting up Big E, but Big E with the reversal. But AJ able to keep up though. AJ taking down Big E. I have no idea who any of these guys are anymore. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't really care for wrestling back then because of what they did to the women back then. You know, Vince kind of treated the women like shit back then. He still does. Still to this day, he still does. Treats them like their own personal porn stars. Still does, still. I was always into wrestling. Honestly, if it weren't for wrestling, I wouldn't be here today. So, I wouldn't be talking to you guys today if I wasn't into it, so. Yeah, it does say a lot about wrestling, that's for sure. As AJ Styles looking for another phenomenal forearm here on Big E. As Max is just watching this happen, and a phenomenal forearm on Big E once more. As Max is trying to get in the ring to prevent Xavier Woods from breaking up the pin here, and he does. An AJ Maximum. How would I not be here without it? Literally, when I was 13 years old, so you're talking 2014, or not 2014, 2013, 2012. I was in middle school, and I'm actually back in the town where I went to middle school in. And I was very depressed as a kid, very, very, very depressed as a teenager. Because I found out a lot of secrets about my dad, because my dad is no longer with us, thank the Lord. And I know that sounds cold to say, but my dad was a really bad person. You know, he just didn't want to grow up and didn't want to be, you know, a man and take care of his child, so he'd rather get drunk and, you know, go to strip clubs and you know, party. And he was 24 when he died. But honestly, that's still no excuse. Like, once you have a child, you have to, you know, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. Let alone when you're married, too, as well. I'm pretty sure since you have I believe you said that you had a daughter, Zero, so, you know, that's exactly it. You know, when you become a dad, like, I'm not a parent, but I know for a fact that when you become a dad, like, everything changes. When you have a child, everything changes. Your entire life changes. And, you know, it's, you can party, but, you know, that's not to say that once you have a kid, your life is over. But, you know, when you're going out and you're partying and stuff like that and whatever, like, that's why being in your 20s is great, because I always tell people, don't get into committed relationships at like 20, because there's no way it's gonna last unless you're willing to change and not do all that partying stuff anymore. You know, that unless you find a girl that likes to party as much as you do, that's totally different. But just from what I've seen a lot of times is these 20-year-olds getting into relationships, and I'm 20, but I've seen, you know, 20-year-olds getting into relationships and messing them up because of, you know, stupid stuff like that. So my dad, you know, wasn't really a good person, and his family, his entire family, they aren't good people either. So I don't see them. My hometown, where I grew up in, well, I shouldn't say grew up in, but where I was born at, people know my name because of bad reasons. People know my last name because of bad reasons. Because my dad's family, they got in trouble with the law a lot, and that's why my dad didn't want me to go to school out there because, um, you know, people would know my name for a bad reason. And unfortunately, it shouldn't matter because you're not your family. You're not, whatever. Just because you share the same last name doesn't mean you're the same person and you have the same moral system or moral compass. But, you know how it is. It's like one of my best friends. His brother is considered a terrible person. And everybody labeled him as a bad person because of his brother, just because his brother is bad. And he's not a bad guy. He's not, doing terrible things. He used to, but he changed. But, anyways, going back to what I was saying before, wrestling, I was getting bullied all the time in school. Like, people would bully me because I would walk around with a cane. I don't anymore because honestly, even though that I use the cane to help me walk, it just gets in the way of things. I have to constantly pick it up. I have to constantly throw it under a desk or something so people don't trip over it, and it's just a pain in the ass, and I don't like it. But a lot of people picked on me because of the way I walk, because of my physical disability, stuff that I couldn't control. Basic stuff. People like to bully people based on everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And I was really depressed, and I found out a lot of bad stuff about my dad, like all the terrible things. I found out that my mother was lying to me and keeping secrets from me. And there's that whole thing about being a parent and wanting to protect your child from stuff like that. But there comes to a time in their life where it's time to tell them about those things. And honestly, if I think I knew about those things sooner, my mother and I wouldn't be so distant from each other. Because ever since then, because I found out all about my dad and his evil deeds from my uncle. So my mother couldn't even tell me stuff. And you know what? And that's why I don't really trust her that much, because honestly, like, you keep a secret like that, a big secret like that, from your own son. I would have been fine. The reason why I say I would have been fine if she told me it earlier is because I would have had time to, like, get over it. You know what I mean? I would have had more time to just get over it and be like, well, my dad was a douchebag. Okay. That's fine. But I found all that out in a combination of me getting bullied, and it was not by guys either. It was by women, which was a lot worse, because in this day and age, you can't... I grew up with the ideology that you don't disrespect a woman, you don't comment on her weight, you don't say certain things, and whatever. Like, it just doesn't matter, So I grew up with that mentality, and, so so women would say, things to me like, and it was, I've always been skinny. I've been underweight, like 30 to 40 pounds underweight for as long as I can remember. And that's because of my physical disability. See, my physical disability, it not only affects the way I walk, it affects everything. From my digestive system to the way my body actually operates. And that includes gaining weight. So I have a high metabolism, but because of my disability, I don't have much muscle tone, which means I don't develop muscle mass, which most people, that's what their weight is, or at least a lot of the people that I know, that's what their weight is muscle mass. And with my disability, my digestive system gets messed up, which means I also don't eat a lot either. And it's not because I'm not hungry, it's because of the way my body just processes stuff. And so I got bullied a lot when I was in school, and You know, it would. I acted like it didn't affect me. Like I was just like, okay, brush it off because, you know, schools. And here's my problem with schools. Not to turn this into like a whole entire rant because it's not. This is not what that is. But my problem with schools is that, you know, with everything that's been happening out in the world, like, you know, the mass shootings and all these terrible things, you realize when you read the stories about it, it's kids that are doing it. And, you know, it's sad that it's come to the point where kids are, you know, hurting themselves and doing all this because they're not, you know, they're just kids and they don't know how to deal with this stuff, and the school's not helping them because, you know, they don't want to get involved with it. They don't want. I can tell you how many times, like, the only reason why I survived in school was because I had friends that would literally beat the shit out of people, and that's the only reason why. You know, so I just kind of brushed it off, and I was just kind of like, okay, you know, whatever. You know, you can't stop somebody from hating on you. You know, so you either option one, don't give a shit and just do you, or you can let it affect you and, you know, whatever. And in my opinion, like, yes, there comes to a point in a kid's life where, you know, he or she has to buck up and just understand things and you know, just deal with it. But at some point, you know, kids shouldn't have to deal with that anyway. Kids should just go to school, learn, and further their lives. They shouldn't have to worry about somebody beating them up for their lunch money or somebody, you know, making fun of them or whatever, you know. They shouldn't have to worry about that. But now, with the way kids are now, it's even worse. And they have to worry about it. And it's sad, you know. And I always said to myself, like, if I ever have a kid one day, my kid's not dealing with that. Like, I'm going to give my kid full permission to beat somebody up if they're messing with them. And, you know, honestly, I don't condone violence or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know, they expect kids not to stand up for themselves. They expect, and these bullies expect kids to just take it, you know? And because that's why they bully, because they think that a kid's not going to have the balls to defend themselves. And me not being so physically inclined, I didn't do anything because I physically couldn't do anything. So, you know, with a combination of everything that I found out about my father and a combination of, you know, bullying, wrestling, I really turned to that because that was the one thing I could use to escape reality. Like, in this world, it's scripted. You can be somebody else. You can act a character out. You can be somebody else, right? You don't have to be yourself. You're acting. You're playing a character, right? You know, and so all the time when I would watch Raw, and I didn't just watch Raw. I watched TNA, ROH, Ring of Honor. I watched it all, and I would always imagine myself like, what if that were me out there, you know, whatever. And that's what I fell in love with was the art form of not just doing the moves but being a character and having fans boo you and cheer you and whatever, the reaction part of it. It was fun. And then, you know, I started going to events, meeting wrestlers, and I started to fall in love with it even more because I realized, like, these people actually care. You know. And you know, it's you know, and that's what inspired me to do this show was, you know, the Outlaw character, the Brian Outlaw character you just saw at the beginning of the show. He's based on me, and the Outlaw characters are based on my life. So I've shared this numerous times with all of you guys. So, you know, they didn't have a father, I didn't have a father. So, I basically take, and how I script storylines a lot of times is I take bad experiences and I make fun of them. So I've insulted my prom date, I've insulted my ex-girlfriend, I've insulted a lot of people as part of these storylines. And it's not because I have any animosity towards them. I still think they're terrible people. It's because, in a way, that's me getting payback without actually hurting somebody. That's me getting payback, that's me getting over it. And I'm not hurting anybody, because you guys all know it's just part of the show. It's not really how I am, okay? But with the outlaw characters, and I've explained this numerous times before, that they're everything that I wanted to be. Like, Brian Outlaw's body, he weighs 130 pounds, and he's got a six-pack. That's how I wanted to be. Because of my disability, I can't wrestle. I can't do many physical things. But in the virtual world of video games and movies and what have you, you can do anything, right? And people are blaming video games right now on a lot of things, violence, whatever, and I think there's much more to it than that. Obviously, we're not going to get into that, but these characters that I act out, like, I have to get into character, and a lot of people ask, how do I do that? And with them being heels, which are bad guys, in case you're not familiar with wrestling, I have to be mad. I have to be angry. And, I purposely go on Facebook so I can get pissed off, so I can be in that character. And, there's the female side of the Outlaws with Luna Outlaw and Sky Outlaw, and I based those two girls on girls that I went to school with. Sky Outlaw is kind of she's kind of the diva, kind of thinks she's too good for anybody. And there was a lot of girls that I went to school with that were like that. And most of those girls made fun of me. Those were the women that made fun of me. And that was the thing. If I didn't find them sexually attractive, I wouldn't have cared as much. Like, if my hormones and me going through puberty didn't make me go nuts over those women, then I wouldn't have cared as much. Because I would have been like, well, you're not a prize either, sweetheart, so, I would have been okay with it. But it was the fact that they were not only that I found them physically attractive, but, it was that. Because then I can think in my head, well, they don't look good either, so screw them. That way I'm not bullying anybody, or I'm not doing anything bad or anything like that, Because in my opinion, like, that's how you could think. You could think, well, they're not doing anything good with their life, so so haha. But that's what I did. I made Sky be a diva, but at the same time, I made the Outlaws, like, care about their family and stuff like that. And because I've always been a family guy, I've always been a guy that, and not just my biological family, or my blood family, but my friends and people who I consider brothers and sisters. And then obviously I have Luna Outlaw, who is kind of, I don't want to use that word, but emo, and kind of kind of the outsider. In this season, we unmasked her, which means we took off the mask, the bandana that she used to wear. And she wore that bandana because of her insecurities, and she didn't think that she looked good enough. She wanted to be like her sister. She wanted to be the good-looking one, the one that guys always went after, or whatever. And then, she realized, why should I care about that sort of thing, and just went with it. So, I based these characters on my life, and then eventually, you know, it, just turned into this. And I started streaming it, and I got to be, what I wanted to be, right? And the funny thing is like, I didn't expect anything when I first started streaming this show. I didn't expect legit anything at all. I expected, and that's the thing. It's like, you have to go into streaming and expect like nothing. You just gotta do it just for the hell of it. Do it for fun, what have you, whatever. That's what you gotta do. And I expected nothing. I just expected to have fun. But I didn't expect for the Outlaws to become as popular as they did. And I think they did because they were based on my life and a personal part of me, and that's what I think people gravitated to. And I think it was one comment that a fan made. They asked me if I was a professional actor. Because of how well I play these characters and stuff like that. And you could see some of the posts that I make with these characters through this fake social dummy app that I use on my phone to make the tweets and social media posts and stuff like that. This particular fan asked if I was a professional actor, and I said no. I've had no acting experience or whatsoever. I've just watched wrestling for like 6 to 7 years. So I've gotten to know how to act like a heel or how to act a certain way. What have you. And so that's where I found basically a new identity through the Outlaws and through wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, instead of being the kid with the cane that everyone made fun of, it was the Brian Outlaw is the guy that everyone fears, the guy that everyone is scared to piss off because you don't know what he's gonna do. The guy that cares about people but doesn't trust many people. And so, that's the kind of, because to me, like, I felt like, me personally, I cared too much about what other people thought about me. But the Outlaws, they don't give a shit. The Outlaws, they do whatever they want to do. They beat the hell out of whoever they want to beat the hell out of, and they don't care. They don't care if the fans boo them. They don't care if they hurt people, or anything like that. It was the art of not caring. Because once you start to not care about what other people say about you, the bullies, whatever, even your own blood family, because we all have those people in our family that absolutely can't stand each other. And once you start not caring and start just doing your own thing, and just living your life however you want to live it, then that's when you're doing what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And I guess the Outlaws, were able, I think of them as like my conscience, right? Because you got the angel on your shoulder and the devil on the other. And, there's like these characters, it's going to kind of sound crazy with the way I explain it, but these characters that were like, everything's going to be okay, you're going to be alright, It's kind of like when you're talking to yourself and you're going through things and you're like, okay, I'm in this position, how do I get out of it? Or how can I better myself by being or whatever. So that's what I did, and I'm forever grateful for you guys making those characters popular and making this show what it is and everything. Is we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of this show, August 21st, next Wednesday. So make sure you're there for that. I'm gonna do something special for that. That should be fun. That's gonna be its own video. It's not gonna be a part of the season. It's gonna be its own live stream, what have you. And the tattoo on their backs that you see, the Outlaws, it's jail bars, and it's being trapped by the jail bars of society. Meaning that society wants you to be a certain way, and all of us can relate to this, because at once, we're all looked at by society, and things are all looked at by society in so many different ways, And there's people there's people in our families, people that we know, people that we come in contact with, that want us to be a certain way. And that's what the jail bars represent, being trapped by societal norms. And that's the whole outlaw name. Outlaws, they don't obey rules. So they don't obey the societal norms that society wants them to be. And that's the whole message of them. Like, you might not like certain things that they do on the show, but at the end of the day, it's them doing their own thing. It's them being their own person. And that's really the message that the Outlaws represent. It's just being your own person and not, like, being the person that people want you to be. And you know, and that's what I've learned over the years. You know, I've grown through the Outlaws, and I've had the ability to, you know, grow as a person through these characters. And I know it sounds kind of crazy because these characters are, you know, nothing but fiction. You know, they're just characters I made in a game. But we all grow through experiences, and we all have our own ways of life and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, it's and again, like, I know I've said this multiple times, but you know, I can't express my gratitude and my gratefulness for you guys making the show what it is, making the channel what it is. We're affiliate now. We're close to 200 followers now. It's litty. It's insane, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm gonna continue to bring you guys wrestling content on both of my YouTube channels and my Twitch channel as well. So, with that being said, Zero, that's the long, in-depth answer to your question. Long, in-depth answer to your question. So I hope that satisfies you. I hope that answer satisfies enough. And for those of you that want to hear more in regards to what I just explained, you will hear more on the wrestling podcast. The first episode, What Wrestling Gives Us, with me and Sleb. So you'll hear about that on the podcast. And I really think it was me getting a chance to interact with the wrestlers that made me realize, like, you know, there's people that actually care about you. You know, there's people that actually, you know, like you for you and stuff like that. You know, and I think that's what Rosemary made me realize, because Rosemary, she plays a freak. You know, she plays a freaky character. But, you know, but everybody loves her being freaky, even though that she's not actually like that. It's just her character. You know, everybody loves her for being the weirdo that she is. And that's where I kind of just embraced it. Yeah, I walk funny, but, you know, whatever, right? You know, and without wrestling, I don't even think I would have realized that. And it sounds kind of crazy, but everybody goes through those things in life where they don't realize things, and it takes a lot. It takes either a person, a couple people, whatever, for people to realize, you know, who they truly are. And I think wrestling has given me that sense of that, you know, given me, you know, a true identity, and, you know, allowed me to be my own person. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, because you should be your own person anyway, but, you know, sometimes society won't let you. They want to label you, they want to judge you, you know, and that's honestly BS, isn't it? And that's why I like Twitch, because, you know, regardless of the amount of trolls that come in the stream or come in your streams or whatever, you know, you got, you know, your loyal viewers and your loyal community, like Avenger friends and all that good stuff. So, you know, it's the same thing. As Mustafa Ali looks for the through the rope neck breaker here, and he connects with that on Kevin Owens, and, you know, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to create a positive community, a place where everyone can feel accepted. And I feel like in wrestling there is that place. There is that place of acceptance. As Mustafa Ali looks for that 054, but Kevin Owens saw that one coming. And Kevin Owens looked for something big there on Mustafa Ali, but he's unable to get that, and he's driving the knee right into the back of Mustafa Ali as Mustafa Ali rolls out to the apron. And Kevin Owens, what's he going for here? A monster DDT. On Mustafa Ali here. As Mustafa Ali looks to get shoved in the corner, but Kevin Owens dropping Mustafa Ali as he looks for that Hurricane Rana takedown there. As Kevin Owens drags Mustafa Ali to the middle of the ring here. And Kevin Owens and for that panhandle powerbomb looked like. Lifting up Mustafa Ali. What's he going for here? The stunner! The stunner on Mustafa Ali. Stunner on Mustafa Ali. 1, 2, and Mustafa Ali with the kick out. He usually gets, I've seen him hit that move quite a few times recently. And again lifting up Mustafa Ali, going for another stunner on Mustafa Ali. 1, 2, and again Mustafa Ali with the kick out. As Kevin Owens thought he had Mustafa Ali there. Just driving the boot into the chest of Mustafa Ali, and a big knee right to the face, and I think that busted him open. Yes, it did, as you can see some of the blood here, and driving the back of the head of Mustafa Ali into the mat. But an arm drag there from Mustafa Ali. But Kevin Owens sniffing that one right out, and a big suplex there. And again, Kevin Owens doing a little bit of taunting to the crowd there. Honestly, I love Kevin Owens' face turn now. I kind of like seeing him in his face. It's not too bad. And it's Kevin Owens again lifting Mustafa Ali up and just dropping him right where he stands. Uh-oh, possibly looking for that pop-up powerbomb on Mustafa Ali. Pop-up powerbomb, no! Was Mustafa Ali with the Hurricane Rana able to reverse that very quickly. Now going up to the top rope now. Looking for that 054 on Kevin Owens. 1, 2, 3, and Mustafa Ali gets Kevin Owens. As I thought Kevin Owens had that victory with that pop-up powerbomb there, but Mustafa Ali able to turn it into a Hurricane Rana and quickly going up to the top rope and to connect with that 054. As we are at our main event. Oh, it was Rey Mysterio. That's the guy I forgot that was in this match. We have a number 1 contenders match. Fatal 4-way rules. No countouts. No disqualifications. The winner will face Miles Anderson, the RCW World Champion, at the Liberation pay-per-view for the title. As far as what stipulation that is, we don't know yet. It might be a normal match. It might be a no disqualification match. It might be a Hell in a Cell match. It might be a 2 out of 3 falls match. We don't know, but that is yet to be determined. But Roman Reigns, Zero, and Rey Mysterio, as well as Samoa Joe, all have an opportunity at Glory. Or, I guess, the potential to be the next RCW World Champion. As Zero makes his way out here. Again, that Zero Tolerance tee, you can enter command store in the chat to gain access to my merch store, and that t-shirt that you see right there is on the merch store. You can go ahead and grab it. It's available in all sizes. And Zero knows what's at stake here as he makes his way to the ring, and let's try to get this underway here. Big Dog making his way out here. And it's Samoa Joe. Fatal 4-way rules. Winner goes to face Miles Anderson. And we are underway here as Zero's going right after the Big Dog Roman Reigns. The big man here in the ring. Remember, these men have to make sure that they are inside the ring here, because if they decide to go to the outside of the ring, somebody could go for a pinfall, and any of these men could not be involved in the outcome. So referee has to pay close attention here. The big power bomb there for Samoa Joe as Zero gets pushed off of Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns with a quick reversal. Tried to go for a suplex, but no, as Rey Mysterio takes Samoa Joe to the outside. Working on Samoa Joe here on the outside as Roman Reigns and Zero remain in the ring. Now, with this matchup, with no disqualifications, no countouts, huge striking combination there by Zero. But with no disqualifications, no countouts, you could definitely see some violence in this match, as well as temporary alliances here in the match. There's a snap suplex right to Roman Reigns. And Rey Mysterio is in trouble here. What's Samoa Joe going for as he drops Rey Mysterio head first onto the apron? And again, Zero seems to be having no issues here with the Big Dog Roman Reigns. Uh-oh, and Zero grabbing that sledgehammer. Zero looked to use that sledgehammer on Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns got out of the way and now using the butt of the sledgehammer on Zero. And oh, Roman Reigns tried with the right hand there. DDT to Roman Reigns, and Rey Mysterio looking to go up top here against Samoa Joe, and a big elbow drop. Now he drops Roman Reigns as like I said, any of these men can pin each other. Now, Zero's not the type of guy to use weapons, but he will use them to his advantage under Fatal 4-Way rules, and that's exactly what's happening here with a steel chair against Roman Reigns. Zero just hammering away here on Roman Reigns. And Samoa Joe taking care of Rey Mysterio there with a senton. Now going for a pin there, 1 count. As Roman Reigns looking to get to his feet. And Roman Reigns almost met his match there. Oh, tried for a big clothesline there. Oh, but now it's Rey Mysterio and Zero going at it now. As Rey Mysterio gets hit with a couple of strikes. And now Zero again lifting up that chair. Going after Ray now, but now sees Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns able to take advantage. And Samoa Joe gets up as both of these men are in the ring now. As Ray throws Zero in the ring now. All of these men are in the ring. As Roman Reigns fired himself up in a body slam there. And now Ray is rolling out. Now it's Roman Reigns and Zero once again in the ring together. And a big Superman punch, but no, Zero saw that one coming. Again going after Reigns. Now Zero looking for zero tolerance here against Roman Reigns. Zero tolerance on Roman Reigns. Looking to go to RCW Liberation, and Zero gets the pin on Roman Reigns. Was a little speechless there for a second. As Samoa Joe came in right towards to try and break up the pin there, but Zero will be facing Miles Anderson for the RCW World Title at Liberation. So there you have it, folks. As Miles Anderson and Zero have been butting heads with each other these past couple of weeks, and now Miles Anderson cannot get away from Zero, as that match is official now. So it will be Zero and Miles Anderson at RCW Liberation for the RCW World Championship. Now, as far as what stipulation that'll be, we don't know quite yet. However, we will find out soon enough. You guys will find out soon as to what stipulation that may be. So, thank you guys for joining me for another episode of RCW. So, I'm excited to be back in streaming in the scheme of things. So, as far as I know, the podcast will be starting sometime this week. My goal for it, I guess, anyway, is to get a scene in OBS Studio here for it, and to sometime this week. Otherwise, we're not gonna we're gonna run some test streams. So on one of these days, you might see me like going live over and over and over, and that's just because we are going to just run test streams, because we don't want to spend forever on the day of the podcast trying to figure out how we're going to do it. For those of you that don't know about the podcast, I'll quickly explain it here as we close out stream. So the podcast is called The Angle, and we're not sure if it's going to have be twice a week, once a week, whatever. Once a week is what we're going to aim for. It is a wrestling podcast where we discuss many wrestling topics such as characters, building characters, rivalries, and building rivalries, what generates heat, what is not a good way to generate heat, other things, all things wrestling, and it's called The Angle. And you guys will be there with us, which will be awesome. You guys will be there with us, and I'm excited for you guys to chime in on this conversation. So even if you were a wrestling fan back then, in the case of Zero, where he doesn't know who any of the newer guys are, but he probably knows Stone Cold and The Undertaker, some of the legends. Even if you're a person that either doesn't watch wrestling anymore, has watched it in the WWF days and or WCW days or ECW days, or you're not a fan of wrestling at all and never seen wrestling before, or only have dipped your feet in it and don't really know as much as I do as far as scripting and how it goes behind the scenes, I still highly suggest you watch this podcast, because not only is it going to be an entertaining discussion, but with the guests that I plan to have on the show, which I plan to have Slav on the show for the first episode, as well as many other awesome people, like even wrestlers that I know that I could possibly get in contact with for an exclusive interview. That would be fun to do. But even if you're not a fan of wrestling, or however wrestling affects you, whether you don't like it, you like it, whatever, I highly suggest you watch this podcast anyway. And honestly, the topic may not interest you because it's wrestling or whatever, but trust me, you'll learn a lot more things than just wrestling. With this particular episode, we're going to be discussing what wrestling gives us, as I was talking about earlier with Zero and answering his question, and all that stuff. So that whole discussion that I just did throughout some of the matches in the stream, that's the kind of discussion that we will be having in the first episode, is stuff like that. What wrestling gave us, me and Slev, and what makes us fans of it. And rather than just the simple fact that it's entertainment and that it entertains us, because that's the easy answer. You watch something, you listen to something, you consume something in media 9 times out of 10 because it entertains you. The only time where I can see it not being exclusively for entertainment is when you just want it to be background noise, because sometimes I turn on things just for it to be background noise, like the radio, for example. I don't listen to the radio anymore. Very, very rarely. I just go on Spotify Premium and search whatever I want to listen to, and bang, that's what I listen to. Or I turn on one of my playlists, but I sometimes throw the radio on for background noise. So, with that being said, I'm really excited to start this podcast. It'll be something different on the channel. It'll take one of my streaming days, unless we do it on the weekend. Unless we don't really have sort of a set in stone schedule for it. And the reason being for that, I would love to have a set in stone schedule, because that's how I am with my Monday, Wednesday, Friday streams. I would love to just have a set in stone schedule where we're going to stream it on this day, we're going to do it on this day. But because of, the possibility of having guests on the show and having to, cater to their schedules, whether it's their work schedule or whether it's their, just daily schedule, their daily routine schedule, because some people have dinner at a certain time. Whatever it is, whatever schedule you want to call it, schedule, your routine schedule, your work schedule, whatever. We'll have to work it out through that, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys understand that. For all of you that do things, unless you just sit at home like me and don't really do anything, for that, so that is what we kind of have in store for the podcast. Every episode is going to be a different topic. With special episodes where I'm interviewing wrestlers, because I know this guy that streams on Twitch that I got to talk to for a little bit in Discord, and he's a professional wrestler where he's from, and so he wrestles for his local wrestling promotion, and him and I got to talking just a little bit about his gimmick, about his character, and about what wrestling has given him. And just to know his personal story, I got to know some of the personal things about him. We only talked for maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, but I asked him if he wanted to be on the podcast and talk about his career, talk about what wrestling has given him, and so that you guys can hear it from the horse's mouth, so that you guys, can really dig it. Because honestly, I think one of the most common misconceptions about wrestling a lot, and why people hate on it, is because they don't understand it. They don't understand the work ethic that goes into it. They don't want to understand the amount of training the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, what wrestling gives the performers when they go out and their music hits and their fans chant their name. Stuff like that. A lot of people don't realize that. And unless you like make an effort to look up interviews and listen to wrestlers talk about that stuff, then you're not going to know that. A casual fan, which I define as somebody who just watches it and that's it, who just views it, who just watches Raw because it entertains them and doesn't know the behind-the-scenes work, what it takes to make a good rivalry, stuff like that. They don't actually think about the behind-the-scenes stuff of wrestling. Then obviously they're not going to know. And I think it's very essential. So I think, for me, I found myself loving wrestling more by meeting wrestlers, especially Jerry the King Lawler, a commentator that I met last week. Well, one of my heroes. Meeting him was definitely eye-opening for me. And meeting a bunch of wrestlers over the years, indie wrestlers, guys that have wrestled locally for local promotions around me, and meeting them and looking up stuff on YouTube, like looking up wrestlers talking about their career and talking about their characters. I find that really entertaining because everybody's unique and every wrestler is unique in some sort of way, shape, or form. So, it's fantastic to hear all that stuff, and I guarantee you guys are going to love the podcast and love everything. And as far as the chat goes, where are you guys going to come in on this? So, as far as the chat goes, what Slev and I want to do is we're going to hide the alerts, at least in my stream. I don't know if he's going to stream this on his channel. I have no idea. Because with the podcast that he does with Tony, they both stream it on both of their respective channels. I don't know if he's going to do that. That's his decision. It's his channel. It's his thing. I'm not going to tell him to stream it if he doesn't want to. But if he wants to, then all power to him. So what's going to happen is we're still going to pay attention to chat. Obviously. I stream from my laptop, so you guys are actually going to see the chat here on the laptop screen. And I apologize for that. I don't have a PC setup. I don't have, the dual monitor system, whatever, but I have a really good laptop that I can stream from. So I'm cool with it. I'm fine. I'm fine with it. In great quality, so I think I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. But we'll be hiding alerts, so you won't see hosts, you won't see followage, you won't see any of that stuff. But I will acknowledge it after the stream. We will try and have a section. We'll have a section in the podcast where you guys will give questions for us, if you have any. And if we don't have any, we'll just acknowledge the alerts and just end it from there, and wrap it up. But in places, if you have something to discuss, I highly suggest you tag my name in chat, or if you have a question for one of the guests, whether it's a Twitch streamer, just type their name in chat. Like, if they're not a Twitch streamer, but, if, for example, if I have, I don't know, this is a dream, okay? I'm just spitballing. So, hypothetically, if I had Rosemary on here, which I would die, okay? I swear to God, I would die. I would die if I ended up ever speaking to Rosemary, like actually talking to her instead of doing it through social media. But like if I had Rosemary on here, for example, you wanted to ask her a question, you would say Rosemary, put Rosemary in chat, and I would either write it down or make an indication for it, so that you guys would get that answered. Obviously, depending on how many people tuned to the stream. There might be a lot of people chatting, so it might be hard. But if you have a question for me, you can just at me in chat. Like, you can just at Botch TV in the chat, and I will see it. And with Sleb being a Twitch streamer at Sleb86, you can at him in the chat. I will ask him to possibly pop up the stream if he can, and have him just like mute it, and you know, kind of pay attention to chat too as well, if there's a question that pops up for him. That way that he can acknowledge it himself rather than me saying, hey Slev, somebody's got a question for you. We sort of got an idea of how we want to plan it out. So with that being said, throughout this week, you might see some test streams and stuff like that. You might see some of that stuff. And that'll just be us testing out the scene of the podcast and making sure you guys see everything, making sure you can hear me and Slev, making sure nothing's echoing, nothing's doing anything stupid, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, so if you guys would do me a favor, whenever that happens, whenever we start doing that, I would like you guys to try and make it to those streams if you can, those test streams, because then you guys will be able to tell us if our voices are overpowering each other, etc., so that we can get this fixed, so that when we actually do the podcast, we don't run into many issues. Because usually once you get the settings figured out, you leave them and you don't mess around with them ever again. So, and the scenes are different for every, the settings are different for every scene. So, I mean, it's not going to matter. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining me today. And I will catch you guys on the next stream. Well, let's see who is streaming right now. So maybe we can raid somebody here and give somebody some viewers. We have Crow. We got Zero. Okay, so my buddy Zero is streaming Smite right now. So we're going to go ahead and raid him because he's freaking awesome, and I love him. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I will catch you guys next time.